Well, hello. This video sets up the next video. I tried to do it all in one, but my computer can't even handle that. So this is the introduction and setup. I had the morning off the other day, something I haven't had in a while. I've been very busy, which is a good problem to have after years of on and off health panics and lockdowns. So, been busy. But anyway, I had the morning off. Now, recently I've been thinking about the scientific method, bringing a little scientific methodology to the study of the Hibagon, the Japanese Bigfoot. For example, I found out about a stone memorial. Now, no one seems to know how old it is, but it's ancient. It's a memorial to a Japanese peasant. And it's at the scene of his, I want to say, people kind of say it's the scene of the attack upon him, but we actually don't know that. He could have been abducted from somewhere else, killed somewhere else, and his body carried up there. We're talking about a mountaintop. It's the second highest peak in Fukuyama city limits. It's not in the city. It's in the city limits. And come to think of it, what would a peasant be doing up there? Well, he could be crossing over the mountain, possibly. He could be visiting a shrine, if the shrine existed back then, possibly. But the top of a mountain is not where you would go to look for a feudal age Japanese peasant. You'd look for him near his house and fields. Yeah, so, okay, we don't know what exactly happened, in what order, but we do know that searchers found his body up there, ripped open. He was ripped open at his belly, and his stomach was also ripped open, and the contents of his last meal were visible and noted. And his last meal was buckwheat noodles. They're good. I like buckwheat noodles. Now, his finders theorized that an oni, translated variously as demon, devil, or ogre. These are large, hairy, cave-dwelling, wild humanoids who live in the mountains. And the character for oni comes from a root meaning to hide. And you know that I translate oni as just another word. There are so many words here for Hibagon, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Well, the villagers theorized that one of these brutes attacked and killed this man for the purpose of getting at the buckwheat noodles in his stomach. Which is not where I would go. Now, these were peasants who found the man, not pathologists. And I'm not a pathologist, but if I'd have been there, I'd have checked to see if that man's intestines were missing. if his intestines were missing, or some of his intestines, that's a detail that might have been missed by these peasants. But I think they would have probably found that if they'd looked. Okay, for one, we know that some apes favor intestines. And even here in Japan, the Japanese favor intestines. It's a delicacy. There are whole restaurants devoted to intestines. And we know that the enko, another word, the enko were giant ape-like humanoids, large, hairy, mountain-dwelling humanoids who used to cross the Enko River, named after them, and abduct people for food and for reproduction. One woman came back pregnant and delivered a baby, a live baby, considered monstrous, and the villagers killed it and burned it. Those Enko who were preying on people for food were described as ripping people's intestines right out of their backsides. Okay, so with those data points and bringing science into this, this is an extremely cold case. It's hundreds of years old. But I hypothesize that the peasant was killed by a Hibagon, a Japanese Bigfoot, in a predation attack. I further hypothesize that this tall mountain was part of the Hibagon territory, an important part. Not necessarily their home, but very possibly so. They like mountains. Mount Hiba is the tallest in its area, 10th tallest in all of the Chugoku mountain range. These fellows, interpreted as prehistoric humanoids, but I'm not so sure about that. They kind of resemble this contemporary humanoid, identified as Hibagon. They lived at altitudes an area, even one mountain, one specific mountain that attracted past Hibagon might very well attract present-day Hibagon for the same reasons. In much the manner that an area that attracted past humans still attracts present-day humans. So I thought I'd like to go there with the prediction that we could test, that we might find classic Sasquatch structures. So I intend to do that. I want to do that when it gets cooler. That's a tall mountain. It's going to be a whole day climbing and snooping around, and it's got to be cooler than now. But yeah, could we test the Hibagon predation theory and find supporting evidence in Hibagon structures, placing Hibagon at the scene? Not that we'll find the culprit hundreds of years later, But if we could establish that this mountain is currently Hibagon ground, then we could reasonably suppose that it was Hibagon ground whenever that peasant was killed and ripped open. Right? You get it, I hope. That's an example of what I want to try. Another example, that Oni cave where Oni were supposed to live. Could we find structures today around that cave? And that would be another whole day outing. Well, I don't have any whole days off, but I had the morning off the other day, and this area was already on my to-do list for 2 reasons. Reason number 2, we've found Hibagon Sasquatch structures on Mount Zhao. Now, I don't think the Hibagon live on Mount Zhao full time. It's too small. I think they could live there if they wanted to. A family, say a family of 4, they could live there. There's enough food. I saw 6 wild pigs the last time I was there. There's enough cover. And the Hibagon Japanese Bigfoot have enough discipline and brains and skill to stay hidden. But I don't think they'd want to live there. I just don't think they'd want to. Put yourself in their shoes. Metaphorically, because they don't wear shoes, but put yourself in their footprints. They'd be bored out of their gourds, confined like that. We, domesticated humans, we might put up with lockdowns to our collective shame. But I don't think you could lock down a Sasquatch or persuade him to lock down himself. I don't think that's in their temperament. They have big muscles that need to be exercised and big brains that need to be exercised. No Hibagon, no normal Hibagon is going to be satisfied living on Mount Zhao, a little island of wilderness in a human concrete sea. Yeah, maybe so, but I don't think it's very likely. It's far more likely that they come in and out. For whatever reason, they would want to come in and out. I don't know why. I'm thinking of how. I think they come in from the west. This way. It's longer, yes, but what is distance to a Hibagon? They don't tucker out like I do. I think they come in from the west for several reasons. Smaller roads, believe it or not, smaller roads, fewer lights, more cover. Island hopping. They just have to flit from one mountain to another. Just cross one road from one mountain to another. In the middle of the night, they are absolutely able to do this without any exertion, without sweat. And the main reason, all of the missing people cases are west of the river. So I'm looking west. Now the point where the mountains really push down right into the river is here. if they come in and out through here, that's good for them. There are no human eyes here. There's no one watching. There's nothing here. No houses. An old, unused road. On the other side of the river, a golf course. Closed at night. No one's there. So they have a nice private corridor here where they can get farther in with no risk of running into anyone. There's no one here. If I were a Hibagon, I'd go in and out of Mount Zhao through here, this way. So that's my hypothesis. So I had an unscheduled morning off the other day, so I grabbed it. I got up early, before dawn. Good morning. It's 4:30 a.m. And do you even know where your favorite YouTube Hibagon Japanese Bigfoot enthusiast is? Well, he's sneaking out of his house. Hope my wife hasn't set up a hidden trail cam out here. Yeah, we're sneaking out of the house because we got a place to go. So let's go. And I went over there and tested this hypothesis, looking for structures. Okay, that was my second reason. Reason number 2. I haven't told you my first reason. It's my first reason chronologically. Before we found structures on Mount Zhao, before Mount Zhao ever came into it, I was already very interested in this area because the one case from Fukuyama City on the National Police list of mysteriously disappeared persons a long list. Remember, we're largely isolated from the problem here in Fukuyama because of the river. These happenings stop at the river. And let me remind you, or for newcomers, let me show you how big this problem is. Here's the capital region and its representation rate on the National Police list of mysteriously disappeared persons. The capital region with all of the people, and by far most of the human-on-human crime. And here is this region. This is our representation on that list. Managed, compiled and managed by the National Police Agency, not by me. I'm not cherry-picking. And again, we're lucky because Fukuyama is largely isolated by that river. Although, we had a peasant abducted and ripped open up north, up in the mountains. We had, more recently, we had a lady with an armful of towels. She was just stepping out at night to do some laundry. She disappeared across the river from her home, tucked up against the mountains. And we have one case on the National Police list, and this gentleman disappeared from exactly here. So I went there. And in the next video, I will take you there, and we'll see what we see. Okay, thank you. Love you. Bye-bye.